Hey there, this is Natalie, back with more stories from some of the best subreddits. Please subscribe for more Reddit videos and ring the bell so you never miss an upload. Now here's a kind of fun and uplifting story from the Today I Messed Up subreddit. And as always, yes, I know it's not really called that, but we have to be careful on YouTube. This story was originally posted by user Don Terre, and it's entitled, "Today I messed up by texting my date that I might end up marrying him, seconds after we ended our date." And this story does have an amazing update from 4 years after the original post, but we'll come to that. The original post begins, "This just happened to me, literally 10 minutes ago. I am dying, I am dead, end me now, oh holy ghost. I thought this only happened in some poorly written rom-coms, the kind where life hardly imitates the real one. I want to bury myself and never come to see the light again. Why me? Oh, why me? 10 painfully long minutes ago, I, exalted by the wonderful date I went on with this handsomely gorgeous man who also happened to be a friend of mine for the last 3 years, against my apartment door that I just closed on this beautiful face, I typed these words that will fiercely haunt me now. Bish, I think I'm gonna end up marrying this guy." This was meant for my best friend, the only other soul I could muster to express my vulnerable feelings. I sent this deeply poetic text to him instead. Do you think there is a void big enough in this planet to hold all my misery, all the embarrassment? Do you think I can make a pact with the devil to turn back time? I would just need 10 minutes. That would be really nice. Can I please die now? Literal and metaphorical death is the only relief I might know. I'm currently in my library, sprawled across the floor, intently staring at the ceiling. Man, I think I'll be here forever. TLDR, I mistakenly texted my date that I might end up marrying him as we just ended our date. Realised too late the text meant for my best friend was sent to him instead. Ooh, I can really feel her embarrassment. This is absolutely the kind of dumb thing I would do. Actually, you guys know me. I'd probably tweet it assuming that he didn't follow me on Twitter and then find out that he did. But still, there are some great updates to this one, so I'm going to get straight onto the first one. She says, "Bish, I owe you an update. Good news, there's only so much staring at the ceiling one can do before pure boredom kicks in and the realisation that the desire to scream frick 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 at the top of your lungs will most likely not last for an eternity. Bad news, you guys did me dirty by blasting all my still fresh embarrassment on the front page and apparently on a famous Portuguese radio show this morning. Cool. So, on to the meaty love update. Once I realised the text blunder, I quickly texted him that it was not meant for him, with a crying emoji for good measure. Sweet man that he is, he responded immediately to let me know that he doesn't read texts not meant for him. I subsequently asked for permission to die. He said, "Please don't." This morning he texted me about some travel plans we have down the line. Bless this handsome man. The gods are cruel, but not that cruel. This is where I should clarify that the original post was obviously a tad hyperbolic, just like that text. Go figure. I slept well last night and I also laughed. At myself, the blunder, just the ridiculous timing. What also got imprinted on me was that exact moment I wrote and sent that text. The moment he leaned and kissed me goodnight. I looking at him as I closed my apartment door, locking it and at once turning around and heavily sighing and smiling, keys still in hand. 2 weeks ago, he had proposed going on a walk at the park. I had an inkling somehow that after knowing each other for 3 years, he was going to finally, perhaps, become vulnerable and share a few things. I had been in a serious relationship when we met, and what I know now to be out of respect and my ironclad boundaries, he never made any advances. But I was single now, and at the park, sitting there together, he looked at me and said he had feelings for me. Long time, 3-year-long feelings. And right there at Prospect Park on a clear night, under some 35 visible stars. We counted. He kissed me. Last night it was my turn to be vulnerable, even if accidentally. For once, I think I understand Ted. He was always the guy I wanted to throw my shoe at whenever his ridiculous face showed up on screen, which was a lot. As for the library, I'm not Jane Austen, but I'm a New Yorker, and the luxury of ample space is not something I recognise. My dream as a child refugee, growing up in deep poverty, was to have a dedicated place for all the books I could buy when I would grow up and have money. Here's a pic of my library nook that I built through vintage thrifting, DIY projects, and patience. The library. That's it, folks, the update. I might prefer this life over any rom-com. And in the relevant comments we find out the pic of the library is gone, but OP explains it in a comment. You guys, it's not a literal library. It's a corner of my apartment I've turned into a library nook. Also, for what it's worth, this is an embarrassing story that just literally happened to me. But believe me, as a refugee who has suffered through deep poverty from early childhood, I'm well aware of all the hardships existing out there. Now let me go back to just staring at the ceiling. I guess people were giving her trouble for this being a kind of first world problems kind of post if you take it very seriously, and the fact she was talking about her library in the original post, which are going to make some people think that she lives in some kind of castle with a Beauty and the Beast library room or something. In reality, it's probably just a bookshelf. And a commenter replied, "You just ruined my mental picture of you in a dramatic swoon across a plush tapestry on the floor of a dusty Victorian library, cheeks flushed with the back of your hand across your forehead, muttering things like, 'Woe is me,' and 'Verily, I am vexed.'" In other relevant comments, Lady K1487 says, "Make it into a joke. Bring up that that's what they say in those rom-coms, and honestly just make it a laughable experience for both. Example, 'Bish, I think I'm going to end up marrying this guy,' says every girl on a rom-com. Make it into a quote. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm the type of person to turn my screw-ups into a joke." OP replied, "I'm probably going to greet him with a chirpy, 'Hi husband,' next time I see him." Tweetard 1968 says, "You can only refer to him as a bish from here on out." But now we get to the very wholesome latest update, which comes 4 years after the last post, on July 17th, 2024. And OP says, "Bish, we got married. 3 years after I mistakenly pressed send, texting this gorgeous specimen of a guy I would marry him seconds after ending our first date, keys still in hand as I struggled to both text and lock the door, and subsequently sprawled across my library wishing for the floor to engulf me. I did end up marrying the man. Damn, what in the world, life? Thought I'd let you guys know since you did help me with your funny comments and shared shameful moments to eventually get myself up that fateful evening, dust myself off, and not commit cringe seppuku. It's been 3 years of pure joy, and he's still as dreamy and kind, you guys. And it was, kids, that's how I met your father, after all. See you in the next chapter. TLDR, Bish, I married the man. Sending that text by mistake 3 years ago telling him I'd marry him right after our first date was just the truth. Aw, who needs romance novels when you've got Reddit? I really like this story because it's so relatable how you can make those kind of embarrassing mistakes with communication, but if people don't take themselves too seriously like OP didn't here, and, you know, clearly there was already a strong basis for this guy to be interested in her in the first place, what seems like an absolutely mortifying mistake can end up just being a really funny, cute story that hopefully they'll tell their kids and grandkids one day if that's what they want. But what do you guys think? Have you ever made an embarrassing mistake like OP's? How did it work out for you? Let me know in the comments. Now it's time for another concluded story from the Am I the Butthole subreddit. This was originally posted by user Throwaway Gen Reveal, and the title is Am I the Butthole for Ruining My Own Gender Reveal Party? And OP begins, I'm pregnant with a baby boy due in November. My fiancé and I didn't care much about the sex of our child, so we didn't make too much noise about it once we found out. The only people we'd informed were our parents, their partners, and our siblings. Prior to this, my father's girlfriend of 3 years had been asking about my plans for a gender reveal party. I've always been clear about not wanting one. When I announced my son's gender to them, she expressed disappointment that I hadn't changed my mind about a party. I don't like gender reveals. Never have, never will. I prefer baby showers, which I think feel more about the actual child. I never tried to hide that opinion either. Days later, my father's girlfriend invited me over for tea at their apartment. My dad was out of town. When I got there, about a dozen people popped out of hiding to surprise me. There were pink and blue decorations everywhere, which made what was going on pretty clear. As I stood there in shock, my father's girlfriend excitedly told me they were throwing me a surprise gender reveal party, since I'd already told her. She'd taken it upon herself to order a cake with colourful frosting, decorate the apartment, and invite a bunch of people over. The guests included her mother, whom I don't get along with, some of her friends, my mother-in-law, not my mum, and 4 of my friends. As I later found out, my mother-in-law and friends had been told I'd changed my mind about gender reveals. I had not. Still in the doorway, I looked over at everyone and said, "It's a boy, you guys can go home now." I left without looking back. Hours later, my father called me, furious that I'd ruined the party. He said his girlfriend had put a lot of effort, money and love into planning it, and I should have shown respect and gratitude for it. Apparently, she hadn't stopped crying since I left. It's been almost a week, and they're both still upset. Even after I explained I never wanted that party in the first place, they're insisting I could have sucked it up for an hour, or at least cut the cake. Am I the butthole? I don't think she's the butthole here. I mean, she didn't want the party in the first place, and gender reveals are really lame. I don't think we even really do them in Europe, to be honest. But at the same time, as annoying and entitled as it was of the partner of her father to throw a party she didn't want, the guests didn't know that, and I think if it were me, I'd probably have made an effort to make them feel welcome and to at least appear grateful on the outside. And then when everybody left, that's when I think I would have to discuss boundaries with the partner of the father. Still, I wouldn't say the way she reacted wasn't justified at all. And while she could have avoided drama by playing along, sometimes you do have to stick with your convictions. So I really don't think we can say she's the hole between the butty cheeks in this case. Still, there are some relevant comments before we get to the update. The first says, "Not the butthole. This smacks of her trying to prove that she cares about you more than your mom, especially seeing as how either your mom wasn't invited or she turned down the invitation to respect your wishes. She doesn't seem to get that the way to prove that she cares about you at all is to actually listen to what you want and don't want." OP replies, "I asked my mom. She confirmed that she wasn't invited. According to my father's girlfriend, she didn't have her number. That's probably true, but I have no idea how she could have gotten my mother-in-law's." And then to another commenter she replies, "I think the real reason is that she knew my mom wouldn't back her up. Had my mother been invited, she would have told me everything. She knows I wouldn't want a gender reveal." Another commenter says, "There was cake. You could have deliberately misunderstood and said, 'Thank you for the baby shower for my baby boy,' and then stayed for cake. Then you could have also, in between bites of cake, acted all confused to the guests and said, 'I'm so glad she respected my wishes on not having a gender reveal party and threw me a shower like I preferred,' and then went and got another slice of cake." Shaking my head. "Missed opportunity to have your cake and eat it too." Wow, this commenter really cares about cake. OP replies, "Wouldn't have worked. The moment they all yelled surprise, she said it was a gender reveal. The decorations also made it obvious. My fiancé did get me a cake after all this, so I didn't really miss out on that." Another commenter says, "Not the butthole. Is your dad's girlfriend infertile? Does she have kids?" OP says, "She doesn't have kids, but I have no idea whether she's infertile." A downvoted commenter says, I mean, I guess I don't blame you, but it sucks for the other people who just showed up for a party that they thought you wanted and got ditched. Your mother-in-law and friends didn't do anything wrong, and they got punished too. OP says, I talked to them afterwards to clear things up. They were all confused and upset on my behalf. I made it clear I understood that they'd been lied to, and it hadn't been my intention to put them in that position. We all apologised to each other. Another downvoted commenter said, as part of a larger comment, your actions were a reflection of how you feel about the girlfriend, not at all about spending time with people who love and respect you and are looking forward to your little one's arrival. OP replies, if she wants a get-together, she can throw a party. She does not need to make that about my child's sex, especially after I told her not to. My friends and mother-in-law did indeed think they'd come for me, and I spoke to them afterwards, but I will not buy that her mother and friends were there because they cared about me. You're not the only one assuming I don't like my father's girlfriend. That's not true. But when I tell someone I don't want something multiple times, and they go ahead and do it anyway, I don't have to stick around. And no, this was not about the hormones. Overall, OP is voted not the butthole. And then there is an update 2 weeks later. OP says, thank you for all your replies, especially those who called me a butthole for having a gender reveal. I'm assuming you didn't read my post, but you still cracked me up. All jokes aside, I've been expected to be a pushover for most of my life, older daughter of divorced parents, so it was good to know I was right to stand my ground on this issue. After reading your comments, I concluded that the only thing I did wrong was leaving without talking to my friends and mother-in-law. They were lied to and put in an awkward position after I left. I did talk to them the next day and apologised, but I wish I'd told them what was going on. A few days ago, my fiancé and I invited my father and his girlfriend over. I told them I was extremely upset with them both, but wanted to sort this out peacefully. We still ended up fighting. My father agreed with some points I made, but kept insisting that I was ungrateful and owed his girlfriend an apology. She was quiet at first, but started crying about 20 minutes into the fight. My father's girlfriend said she threw the party because she cared about me, and that she'd want one if she was pregnant. She started talking about all the gender reveal videos she'd watched on TikTok, and how happy the parents looked in them. She told me she genuinely thought I'd love it, and couldn't understand why I'd been so rude to her. To my surprise, my fiancé was the first to snap at that. He's usually the calm one. He told her to stop calling it my party, since she clearly threw it for herself. I'd expressed countless times that I didn't want a gender reveal, and I was well within my rights to leave when she tried to ambush me with one. The fight didn't go on for much longer after that. Near its end, my father asked me why I hadn't at least played along for a while. I told him I went there expecting to spend an hour with someone I'd been meaning to get to know better, not to spend my entire afternoon entertaining a dozen people, more than half of whom I either didn't know or didn't like, who got together to talk about my child's privates. I didn't mean to upset anyone, but I had to get out. My father didn't argue with that. There were two main pieces of advice from your comments that I decided to follow. The first was to tell my father's girlfriend she needed to apologise to my friends and mother-in-law for lying to them. She agreed, and they later confirmed that she did. Secondly, neither of them will be allowed to meet my son at the hospital when he's born. My father had been looking forward to this, so it wasn't an easy decision, but I made it clear it was final. My father called me the next day to apologise for everything, and I forgave him. I don't expect an apology from his girlfriend, but I'm done feeding that fire. My life is stressful enough as it is. My son will be here in November. He already has a name, and we've just started working on his nursery. I truly can't wait to meet him. Also, sorry for including 4 twice in my first post's title. And the relevant comments to this one are... Commenter says, gender reveals are still a cringe and always will be. OP says, meh, there are dozens of reasons I dislike gender reveals, but I don't think that's one of them. I do agree with it though, but I like plenty of cringe stuff, so that wouldn't be enough for me to dislike something. Another commenter says, do your dad and his girlfriend have a large age gap? She just revealed that she wants kids. OP says, they're 16 years apart, I think. Another commenter says, "For the sake of your mental health, do not tell anyone the names you've chosen." And OP replies, "Oh, we're not saying anything until birth. The only people who know besides us are my best friend, who will be my son's godmother, and her husband." And so that one ended, I guess, fairly well for everybody, apart from the fact that the father won't be able to meet his grandson at the hospital. I don't really know how all of that works with babies and whatnot, but that does seem like a kind of unrelated punishment for him. So I'm not really sure why she chose that, but, you know, it's not like she's cutting him out of her child's life forever or anything over this unwanted party thing. It is kind of funny that the girlfriend got the idea from watching videos on TikTok. If anything, seeing videos of gender reveals on social media just reinforces to me how lame I think they are. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments what you would do if somebody threw an unwanted party for you. Thank you for listening to today's stories. I hope you're having a wonderful day or evening, and I hope to see you again very soon.